Hi, I'm Amy Stasiewicz, and welcome to The Minutes. Thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes. This is a City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council and Standing Committee meetings. But this week, we have a special edition of the show where we'll be chatting about Thunder Bay tourism. You can find The Minutes wherever you get your podcasts, including our YouTube channel and our website, thunderbay.ca/theminutes. If you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening at City Hall, hit that subscribe button. On today's episode, I'll be interviewing Paul Pepe, manager of Thunder Bay Tourism with the CEDC. So let's get started. Thunder Bay is special to so many of us, from jaw-dropping scenery and four-season adventures to a growing food and drink scene and a waterfront view that stops you in your tracks. Behind the scenes, tourism is doing more than bringing visitors in. It's creating jobs, driving growth, and helping our community thrive. Today, we're joined by Paul Pepe, manager of tourism with the CEDC, who will be giving us the inside scoop on tourism in Thunder Bay. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Pleasure to be here this morning.
Okay, awesome. So can you give our listeners some insight into just general Thunder Bay tourism and how does it affect our economy?
Yeah. Well, tourism is a significant economic generator here in the city of Thunder Bay. Over 900 businesses benefit directly from tourism. Hundreds of other businesses benefit indirectly from tourism. And it's worth about $200 million a year to our economy. And over 4,000 people are employed in the industry. So it's everything from, it's transportation, it is accommodation, it is retail, events, festivals, attractions. We have a booming culinary scene that is becoming more of a visitor experience for more people. Every tourist eats, whether they're here for leisure, whether they're here for business or sports events, they have to eat. And so, a lot of our restaurants and the popularity of our culinary scene here is becoming more nationally and internationally renowned and as something that people seek out while they're here. And tourism is much more than just leisure. It's not just the leisure traveler that's coming here for, visiting family or coming here for a fishing trip or paddling or mountain biking, which are, certainly popular reasons to come here. But we also focus a lot holistically on the bigger picture in tourism. Sports events, business events, the travel trade, motor coach groups, cruise ships, all of that helps build a more diversified and resilient tourism economy. And so we tend to focus across a number of segments.
Right. Yeah. And I think some people think of tourism like just for the summertime, but there's so much more.
Very much, yeah. We promote Thunder Bay as a year-round destination.
Yeah.
And in the winter, we focus on sport more. We focus on business events. But we also have a lot of really cool niche, pardon the expression, in the winter. A lot of cool niche experience in the winters, like fat biking and ice climbing, ice fishing, snowmobiling, all of those things that also attract visitors.
Right. Can you share some key highlights from last year?
Oh, definitely. Last year was one of the strongest years we've seen in tourism in almost a decade. We saw a lot of numbers approaching our pre-pandemic numbers. We certainly know there's a couple of years there we don't like to talk about. Yeah. Where tourism really was challenged globally, between 20 and 2022, 2023. But what we saw in 2025 was some pretty impressive growth statistics across the board, to numbers that we hadn't seen since before the pandemic. And so, overall, we saw about a 6% growth in tourism last year over 2024, and that equates to somewhere, close to about $10 to $12 million in economic growth for the community with that growth. We saw a 7% lift in visitors to Terry Fox, for example, our main visitor center, which is open 7 days a week. It's open year-round. We saw almost 70,000 visitors through the door at Terry Fox last year. Airport traffic was up over 7%. Hotel occupancy was up almost 6%. We were about 72% hotel occupancy here in the community, and average daily rate over $200. So, once again, we had an economically healthy year last year for tourism, and that was really driven driven by, I think, diversity of our tourism economy. Not only leisure, but we saw, strong growth in sports events, like the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, for
Right.
example, major national events that brought a lot of people in for that. Strong festivals and events reputation here in the community. And, we saw growth in meetings and conventions, business events, events like CENCAN, the Central Canada Expo, which, focuses on the construction, mining, and forestry industries, but it fills every hotel room in Thunder Bay for a week every September and every restaurant. So, those are all really important contributors to the strong performance that we saw. And of course, last year we saw Canadians exploring more of Canada. Was certainly what's going on geopolitically across the world right now. Canadians really stepped up and explored Canada, and we've certainly benefited from it. U.S. traffic was down a little bit, about 10% last year. But overall, given everything, we saw a shift in the U.S. market. We saw new visitors coming up who were spending more time and more money here in the economy. So it's not just about the number of visitors we attract to the community. It's about how long they stay and how much they spend. And those are also important metrics. And, we saw growth in our overseas markets, predominantly our European markets. Germany, France, Great Britain are sort of our top three European markets. And we really saw growth in that market as more European international visitors are starting to look to Canada more as a destination. So I think all of those combined really, created a healthy market for growth.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Okay, so what were some of the tourism projects that the CEDC actually supported in 2025?
Well, certainly, last year was a record year for us with our Tourism Development Fund in terms of the number of projects that we supported. We supported 71 projects in our community, tourism projects in our community through the fund. And everything from marketing and events to capital, murals, just everything. Some of the more notable events that we supported in 2025 was the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, for example, major national women's curling championship, brought over $29 million in earned media value to the city, and had an economic impact of just close to $6 million itself on the community with hotel room night stays and all the costs of hosting it. We hosted the Central Canada Resource Expo. We financially supported Wake the Giant, a major fall event here, fall festival here, Afro Vibes, brand new cultural event here in the community as well. And so, we were able to fund a lot of projects, both large and small, through that. We also funded a lot of tourism capital last year as well. So some of the more notable ones is the Rock Room, a new climbing gym that opened up in the Fort William business area, as well as the Kissel Golf Motorcycle Museum, another private sector attraction as well. And so, that's the interesting thing with the fund is that we're able to support a variety of both events and capital, and both not-for-profit and for-profit businesses as well. And so that really helps grow our tourism economy in a very meaningful way. And the Tourism Development Fund is our single most important fiscal tool we have to growing tourism in our community.
I know you kind of mentioned the CDC Tourism Development Fund. Can you just walk us through what that is exactly?
Yeah, certainly. So every fixed roof commercial accommodation property in Thunder Bay, every hotel, motel, hostel, collects and remits a 5% accommodation tax. This is a common tax that has been collected for years around the world. A lot of destinations have had this program for years. And on September 1st, 2018, the city bylaw took effect here in the community to collect and remit the taxes here in the community. And in 2025, the fund generated over $5 million in new revenue for the community. And so 50% of that revenue is retained with the city, and the city invests it in recreation and sport infrastructure that has strong tourism values. The other 50% is remitted to the Thunder Bay Community Economic Development Commission, of which we are a department of. And from that, we've been able to establish the CEDC Tourism Development Fund. So we grant about 70% of those dollars out each year. 30% is retained internally for managing the fund, for internal projects, for bolstering our marketing programs as well, so that we can have stronger reach in marketing. But the vast majority of the fund is granted out, and we work with a really great 8-member industry committee that helps guide the investments. So, that fund has become the single most powerful fiscal tool we have in the community to grow tourism. We are considered a best practice across Ontario for communities and how we reinvest it. And in fact, we won an award last year. We won a Northern Ontario Tourism Award for innovation for how we operate and how we manage the fund and how we use it to regenerate new tourism opportunities and new hotel room night stays in the community. So it's a really powerful tool that all goes back into growing tourism.
Right. And you mentioned 50% of it goes back into like actual city services or facilities that affect tourism.
Completely, yes. So the city retains its share and manages its share and invests it in initiatives that are recreation that have a tourism value.
Right.
And that's the thing. Recreation investments in the community do have a tourism value. A lot of the recreation facilities, the parks, the trails, the complex, for example, the waterfront. It's great for residents, but it also has a very strong tourism draw as well. So these tourism investments that are made by the Tourism Investment Fund on our side or on the city share, all go back into making the city a more attractive and more fun place, not only for visitors, but for residents as well.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Okay. So you mentioned, and you might have touched on this, but maybe we can get into a little bit more. So there's two streams of funding, the Tourism Event Fund and the Tourism Product Development Fund.
Yes.
Can you describe a bit about each of these funds and how organizations can find out if they qualify?
Certainly, and one of the interesting things is our fund is has really broad eligibility guidelines. So we're open to not-for-profit organizations, Indigenous organizations, for-profit businesses are also eligible to apply, and so we have two streams. We have the event stream, which looks at business events, sports events, cultural events, and others as well. So we have funded the North Shore Dog Show, which brings in dog owners and folks from all over the region and the U.S. We have funded the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, Central Canada Resource Expo, the Nagani Ishiwan Indigenous Economic Development Conference last year, and others. So that is for any sort of sport group or business event host or cultural event host that is developing a program, developing an event that's going to bring a significant number of visitors into the community. Right. So minimum of 50 hotel room night stays is generally the lower limit of that. But a lot of these events bring in hundreds and hundreds of hotel room night stays, if not thousands in some cases. So that event fund really helps generate more business and more group business into the community. And that's, growing sport and business tourism in Thunder Bay is really important to growing a true year-round tourism economy. And then we have our capital fund. We have our product development fund. And that fund is really to grow and to help nurture new and enhanced visitor experiences, because that's what's really important. That's what brings people here. That's what keeps people here longer, is having more things to see and do. And so that fund is very unique, is that it can fund up to 33% of the capital costs of a not-for-profit tourism product, or up to 20% for private sector. And so that provides a really important source of funding to help new products come into market and develop. It really comes down to, at the heart of a tourism destination is having high quality experiences for people to experience. All the marketing money in the world is lost if you don't have exceptional exceptional visitor experiences that are delivered with exceptional customer service. Right. So that's really where it starts. And so being able to help, grow the quality of the visitor experience in Thunder Bay is really foundational to the success of the tourism industry. And that's where that fund is so important. And with that, last year we launched a pilot mural program to help private sector businesses and to help not-for-profit businesses and building owners beautify their buildings. Oh. And so last year, we funded 10 murals last year, and we've just renewed for another year. We've renewed the pilot for another year. So once again, it's another way to support our local tourism industry, help beautify the community, and become a destination that people remember for the civic beautification. And murals are very Instagrammable.
Yes,
and so it's
true.
one of the things that everybody gets their photo taken and video taken in front of a mural. And once again, that helps elevate our reputation as a destination.
Right. That's so true. Okay, now I'm going to have to look out for where these murals are.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually we load them all on a Driftscape app. So we use an app called Driftscape.
Yeah.
It's free to download, and it's uses geolocation, so pinpoints where you are. And so what we do is every time we fund a mural, we put it on this tour. And so it allows residents and visitors to self-discover the community.
Right.
And we have architectural tours on it. We have history tours. We have culinary tours. But we have actually a couple of different, we have a South Core and a North Core mural tour as well. So that's a great tool to help visitors and residents alike explore the public art around our community.
Okay, what's it called again?
It's called Driftscape.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about the cruise ships. Can you share a bit about the impact cruise tourism is having on the city and the local businesses?
Definitely, yes. So, cruise tourism is something that's really exploded here in Thunder Bay since 2022. And since the late 90s, cruise tourism has been part of our economy. It's been cyclical. It's always very cyclical. The Great Lakes region tends to focus on the smaller, what we call expedition and discovery cruises. So they're smaller ships. The Seaway does limit the size of cruise vessel that can come into the Great Lakes. And so, those large ships that people think of just will not fit through the locks. But there's a lot of ships, actually about 70 and counting globally, that are designed for smaller, more intimate itineraries that bring people into regions that either big ships can't get into. And that's a growing trend. Some people like the bigger ships, but a lot of people are steering towards the smaller discovery type ships. So since, the latest sort of phase of cruise shipping really started in 2022 with Viking Cruises, one of the planet's most, globally recognized cruising brands for quality. And they have built two expedition ships that are Seaway built for the Seaway, and so they've just announced two more builds as well. So they're a growing company globally, and with their presence in the Great Lakes, they've been coming into Thunder Bay on both day stops and turnaround cruises since 2022, and that certainly continues this year with 6 day stops from Viking, and certainly once again these visitors, when they're in port, they visit attractions. Local motor coach companies are supported, local tour guides are hired, but also the vessel takes on food here. Waste is removed here through very rigid environmental standards as well. And so there's a broader economic benefit to the community here with all these contractors that are involved in servicing the ship, but also making sure that the guests and the crew are well taken care of in the community as well. So a lot of businesses, I believe somewhere upwards of about 40 plus businesses benefit here locally. And then you get some visitors that are flying into to passengers and crew that are either flying in to catch the ship or leave, and so there's some hotel room night stays, there's some airfares in there as well. So, the economic impacts of cruising are broad, but, these cruise lines have sizable global advertising budgets. So for Thunder Bay to be included in their marketing, to be included in their itineraries, included in their marketing, gives us a whole other marketing benefit and marketing lift beyond just the visitors that are spending money here in the community.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty nice to use their marketing dollars and not ours.
Oh, precisely. Precisely. And last year we had Viking, Octantis, and its sister ship Polaris. We had Victory Cruise Lines, which was a new company in the Great Lakes, and we had Pearl Seas. And so this year for 2026, we have 10 day stops here in the community, and we have 6 visits from Viking, 2 from Pearl Seas, and 2 from Victory Cruise Lines. And our first ship of the year will be June 5th. It'll be the Victory 2 will be our first ship of the year this year on June 5th this year. So, we're looking forward to another good year in cruise tourism. And as I said, we've just wrapped up our initial meetings, our planning meetings with all of our cruise partners. And, we have a couple of other cruise lines out there that are interested in coming in. But it takes us anywhere from 5 to 10 years to build those relationships with new cruise lines. And it's about maintaining those maintaining those relationships and always making sure we can offer something different and unique to keep the itineraries interesting for their guests, because a lot
Right.
of their guests come back time and time again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Wow. I know. That is just so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when the cruises first started coming here, people were like going
Yes.
down to the waterfront, taking a photo.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big deal.
Oh, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
thousands of people come down to see the ships when they come
Yeah.
in, and it is. The community really rallies behind it. Really, people are down. Locals are down at the dock waving them in,
Yeah.
and we have a really good facility and a good partnership. We call it the Cruise Port Thunder Bay Partnership,
Right.
and it's the City of Thunder Bay's Operations and Infrastructure Division. It is Embark Port Services. It's the CEDC and tourism. All of us working together with local partners to work as one collaborative organization or partnership to grow tourism. And that really makes all the difference in the world, is that we have government, we have not-for-profit, we have private
Yeah.
sector partners
Yeah.
that are all rowing together in the community to grow cruise tourism and to make sure that we are collectively as a destination offering the most exceptional level of customer service
Yes.
that we can. And that is something that we're all very proud of.
Wow. Love it. Okay. So looking into the future, what is your tourism team focusing on, like, say, in the next couple of years?
Yeah, well, definitely. There's lots to work with, as I said. I think there's so much. We've grown. We've seen tourism grow so much here in the community. But the nice thing with that too is there's so much more to work on. There's so much more growth opportunities here in the community. We position Thunder Bay as Canada's premier outdoor city because of that. Being an urban core that's on the edge of the world's largest freshwater lake, on the edge of the planet's largest contiguous boreal forest. And, being on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe people of Fort William First Nations, there's an indigenous connection to the land and the air and the water here that dates back to time immemorial. And so all of that combines, I think, to really create a very unique destination and a place for us all. And when we're talking about placemaking and identifying where we fit in the tourism ecosystem, that really helps us, define ourselves as Canada's premier outdoor city. And it's beyond just physical activity that you can do outdoors. It's about that natural, it's about that connectivity we have to the natural environment around us, in the food, in the festivals, in the events. It's about that connectivity in nature beyond just physical activity. So, we're renewing that brand position in our new CEDC strategic plan, focusing more on four-season destination development,
Right.
really, working to be able to fill hotel rooms more on a year-round basis and looking to bring in more sports events, be much more assertive in bringing more business events to the community, growing those sectors of the tourism economy. We're going to be doing a business events market analysis this year as well. So looking at what events could we be going after that we're not going after now, and to grow our business events and our convention attraction efforts, what does the community need for more space?
Yeah.
What do we need to grow and to build to be able to successfully bid on and host bigger corporate events here in the community? And that excites us because that'll give us data, not only to Tourism Thunder Bay, but that'll provide data to our hotel partners, investors in the community, to look at where those investments should be made in the future if we're going to grow business events. And once again, with the Tourism Development Fund, being a significant financial incentive program to bring conventions to the city, probably I'd say it's more robust than almost any other city in Canada. That's a powerful fiscal tool to be able to fiscally financially attract more business events to the community. So that's something that we're working on this year that we're excited about.
And I think this is a good final note, but where can people find out more about tourism in Thunder Bay?
Yeah. Well, visit thunderbay.com is our website. We encourage folks to go and use our website. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on LinkedIn. If you're looking for industry news, you can follow us on LinkedIn for industry news. If you want to know more about what goes on behind the scenes in tourism and what our team is working on, what our staff are always working on, that's a great tool. Also, the Terry Fox Visitor Center is open year-round, 7 days a week, and from 9 to 5. And we certainly encourage folks to, take a little drive up there, take in the monument, which is, an iconically Canadian monument. Look at the views of Lake Superior and the city from there, and have a chat with our staff. Meet Connie and Karen, our two Visitor Center staff. We're going to be onboarding our students starting next week for the summer up there. So once again, there's some great tools and some great avenues and channels for people to find out more about tourism here in the city.
Perfect. And also your experience guide. I've seen them around town. They're all
Definitely.
over. So,
Yes. Yeah. We're really proud of our new experience guide. This is the 19th year we've done the guide this year.
Yep.
And certainly, this year the cover art by Chelsea, Virginia, artists with local connections here, born and raised here. And that is a great resource, both in print and online, to find out what to do around the city, find inspiration, travel inspiration for people as well. So you can pick these up at the visitor centers, but they're also located at the airport. They're located in hotels all over the city, hotels and motels. But more and more retail businesses are asking for them as well.
Yeah.
So you can find them absolutely everywhere here in the city. And we also distribute these across Ontario, Manitoba, and into the U.S. Midwest as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much to you and your team for putting Thunder Bay on the map. And thanks so much for coming to chat with me today.
Oh, thanks so much, Amy. I really appreciated the time today and really always love to share the tourism industry with our community.
Awesome. That's it for this week's episode of The Minutes. A big thank you to Paul Pepe, the Manager of Tourism with the CEDC, for joining us. And as always, thanks for listening. If you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, visit thunderbay.ca/council. You can catch the minutes every week wherever you get your podcasts, on our YouTube channel or on our website at thunderbay.ca/theminutes. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. I'm Amy. Thanks again for listening to The Minutes, and have a great week.